Swirling. Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of Woke by Accident podcast. Today we have a special guest, podcast host, consultant, and audio engineer, Darrell Barnes.
Hey, Jen. Hey, everybody. What's going on? I am glad to be back on your platform, on your show. And yes. I think this is actually going to be pretty good because I think what's coming up, this will be right in line with what's coming up. And I think that's the Content Creators of Color Challenge, which is going to be in October, I believe. That
Yes.
30-day challenge coming up once again, which I'm sure you're going to be talking about. And like I said, it is a delight to be back on your platform, and hopefully we can, make some magic here.
Oh, for sure. And welcome back, Darrell, aka Mr. Black Ovation.
Yes, ma'am. That's
Um,
me.
all right. And so Darrell previously joined us in season 3, episode 57, where we discussed Botham John and the Henrietta Lacks case. And yeah, so it's been a while. So I'm definitely glad to connect with you again to go over another interesting topic. And I see that you've contributed on a lot of great collaborations and podcasts and panels. So kudos for the great work that you've been doing in broadcast.
Yeah,
Definitely.
all of that's definitely been fun.
Hmm.
The I think it's the fourth annual Afros and Audios event is coming up here shortly. That's going to be in Philly. Unfortunately, I won't be able to make it,
Hmm.
but I am going to be watching via streaming. That is a great event. Lots of very informative guests and panelists and everything that's going to be on that platform. Like I say, I wish I was able to make it, but yeah, I'm just not going to be able to. But I'm going to hold down in spirit the best way I can, and be able to root for everybody that's doing that phenomenal work.
Oh, for
But
sure.
yeah, and I'm going to be doing a little bit more. Like I said, I've been a little bit laxed on putting out episodes myself because of the
Hmm.
time constraints, the job, and all that kind of stuff. But you will be able to hear me once again, and that is the All Things Black podcast, which I am your host, and you can find me on all the streaming platforms that are available.
Excellent. And you've been on some other panels I see recently. So kudos for that as well. We will have Daryl's links posted so you can tap in with some of those prior episodes that he's had. Really great content, guys. So check that out. But
Oh,
today,
one last thing
yeah.
before we actually get started. There was one other panel, just shameless plug, but there was one other panel that I was on. It was all streaming. It was 100 black men, even though we didn't get 100 black men, but
Uh
it
huh.
was 100 black men, and we were talking about black men in the mental health space. We
Yes.
were talking about some of the. Now I got the link. I should be able to post that here. I finally
Oh,
got it.
good. Please share that with
Yeah,
me.
it was
That'd
about
be
me. It was a
great.
30. Yeah, it was about a 30-minute conversation or so, and it was just from some experiences and how did I handle certain things that actually came up in my life, stuff like that. So very notable people that were on the panel,
Mhm.
and I was just fortunate to be in the right place at the right time, talking to the right individual, and she said, "Hey, come on board." So that's exactly what I did.
No, that was the one you kind of moderated the. Okay, I did tap in for that. That was
Yeah,
great.
yeah. Hmm.
That was excellent. Um, that was really good. So if we could get the link for that one, that would be phenomenal for
Absolutely.
sure. Okay, sounds good. All right. So today we will be getting to another topic for you guys, a concept called blackfishing. So you may have heard of catfishing and that whole phenomenon with what goes along with catfishing, and then you may have heard of blackface. So I came across a post in several places, LinkedIn, CNN, different places, even on Twitter, that have been talking about this concept of blackfishing. And so I wanted to get into that with Daryl, who has some really good content about topics impacting the culture and also some of the controversies surrounding the new Little Mermaid film. So definitely want to get your thoughts on that as well. So here's a high level definition of blackfishing, and this one came from LinkedIn. Blackfishing is a form of cultural appropriation and harm that extracts portions of Black culture for status or monetary gain. So, what does that bring to mind when you think of culture appropriation? I mean, we've seen a lot of examples with some of the celebrities recently, and even some of these, you know, online influencers and things like that.
Yeah, I had to sit back and think long and hard about this and how many people that it really impacts and affects. And one of the things that came to mind is that, and this is not new, by the way. I hope a lot of people realize that none of what you're seeing is absolutely new. It's not new. But yeah, it's really the colonization of aesthetics, of Black aesthetics, is really what it is. And it's the monetization of Black aesthetics. This is nothing new. This has actually been going on for years upon years upon years, right? But with the advent of social media, we just been made more aware of it, right? More privy of it because it's been happening so much, right? There's been so many people that are outside the culture that now know that they can actually benefit from the culture in various ways and not really be of the culture, right? So they
Yes.
so they, so they know they know they can do that. Prime examples would be um, Kim Kardashian,
Hmm.
Iggy Azalea, right? The Sounding Black using what they call AAVE, I believe, and it's just something that people really know that they can benefit from, right? It's the monetization of it, which is really the biggest thing. And not only the monetization of it, it's the other benefits that come from it being accepted into Black culture, being able to exercise your options in terms of maybe marrying into the culture or
Hmm.
dating into the culture
Hmm.
because you look a certain way. And one of the things I also come to mind when we sit back and think about it is the fact that there's two things in my mind. It's not just on them for doing it. It's also on us for accepting it, right?
Yes.
Because we have a way of accepting things in our community that should not be accepted, and so many people get funneled through the door, but not be checked. It's almost like you have to think of it in terms of when you go to another country.
Hmm.
You have to have some type of passport. You have to have some type of documentation, and you read the rules and the rights and all these other things before you actually get access to that particular culture or that particular area where you're at, right? You just can't just meander on through it like nothing's happening,
Right.
which has been the case for us. We allow things to happen, and then all of a sudden, when it gets to a particular um, situation, and all of a sudden there's a huge outcry from a lot of us. And in my case, I don't think we should be that open to allow everybody in, because if we didn't do that, we would have less issues. We really would
Hmm.
have less issues if we would at least begin to check and say, hey, okay, I see you want to do X, Y, and Z. And the question should be why? Why you want to do it? And
Right.
if you can't put anything back into the culture, if you can't put anything back, and that could be monetarily, that could be in terms of certain institutions, whereby you're donating or whatever the case may be. And, like I say, putting back
Yes.
into the culture, don't just rape the culture, right?
Mm.
And act like you didn't do anything wrong. You did absolutely rape the culture. You colonized the aesthetics, which is what you did, and you're benefiting from it. So, and we have allowed a lot of people to get away with that. And that's some of the thoughts that I have on it.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like you said, I mean, in a way, they want our rhythm, but they don't want our blues, right? So, and why do they want to do that? Because black people are cool, because we're in stylish or attractive, and then they want to profit. They see opportunity to profit, and they make sure they make plans for that to happen for them totally.
Yeah,
So,
it's a new way to generate money, right?
yes.
It's definitely a new way to generate money, and for them, and it's also their way in. And I'm gonna say a couple of other things real quick, and I'm gonna let you go ahead and continue. A couple of things. I remember an interview with Stephanie Mills that she had with oh, I forget the names. it was a show that was hosted by black women, and they asked her about the music,
Mm-hmm.
and she essentially said the same thing you said. They want our rhythm, but they don't want our blues, right? She said that they want R&B because Stephanie Mills is a very great vocalist. She's written plenty of powerful songs, and her voice is immaculate. And she said that essentially they want R&B, they just don't want it from us, right? And I
Yes.
was blown away by that. I was like, yeah, that's about right. So, and the other thing about it too is that when you see the larger picture, when you look at the larger picture, black folks by and large, however progressively we're doing it or not, we are literally coming into our own, and that means rulership. That means
Mm-hmm.
rulership. So when you're looking at rulership, I was always told that at one point, these very people that have colonized us, these very people that are benefiting off of everything that we do, at one point they're going to want to get into that new paradigm shift or that new rulership. So they're
Mm-hmm.
going to do everything in their power to position themselves to be able to benefit from that. And one way to do that, one way to do that is to actually start to look and act like us, because for the most part, you can't tell externally who's black and who's not, right?
That's true.
Which is why a lot of us will point at somebody and say, "Oh, they're black because they may have a little bit of melanin in their skin," right? But that
Yes.
might not be the case, especially when you start to think or to, ask them certain questions and find out what their mindset is, right? Because
Right.
yes, black is a color, but black is also a mind state. So you can't say that you're black. You can't say that you're black just because you're melanated or you have a little bit of skin tone or something like that. You just can't say that. But I have to question where your allegiance is, or I have to question where your mindset is. Now, again, this is not negating anybody else to say, well, I'm going to do the same thing that was done to me to them. That's not saying that. But again, if we're coming into rulership, if we're coming into alignment with that new paradigm shift, where you're going to see a lot of people of quote unquote color begin to be the leaders, then I got to question what your mindset is. I got to question your mindset, right? Your mind state. Where's that at? I gotta figure you out, because some of us look like us, but they're not us.
Right. And there's a lot of ambiguously, I hate to use that term, but people use that, biracial, and they're, very fair or what have you. And I think non-white people may use that to their advantage. Well, look at, Doja Cat. A lot of people don't know that she's, multiracial or what have you. And other popular stars who are very fair and have multi-race, racial in their background. And so they said, well, they may just think I'm, look at the one professor from a few years ago that was really popular in
Dolezal,
discussion.
Dolezal,
Yes,
yeah,
yes, definitely.
and she got away with it
She did.
for a long time. She got away with it, and again, you can't just fault her. You have to take a look at us for the acceptance of everything that comes into our community. There has to be a litmus test, right? In my
Mhm.
opinion, that we have to have a litmus test to determine whether or not if somebody is actually for the black community, for the culture, right? Or just siphoning off our black gold, right? We might not have a lot of money in terms of, monetary, monetary, the fiat money. We might not have a lot of that, but black folks are inundated with tons of culture, tons of talent, tons of
Mhm.
gifts, ingenuity, all of these different things. And people, for the most part, that have the money, the fiat currency, they come and siphon off that talent, right? There's a million LeBron James in the inner city, a million,
Okay.
right? There's so many different Beyonces, or those that would like to mimic Beyonce. And what I'm talking about is I'm talking about the
Mhm.
talent, right? So we don't have the money to back our own. Well, I'm gonna reverse that. We do. We just spend it um, in ways that we shouldn't be spending it in.
Mm.
So these people that know that the black community is lacking, they come in and they begin to siphon off the talent, the gold mine. Our
Yes.
talent, our gift, our culture is our gold, and we got to get to a place where we can literally protect it at all costs. If it doesn't benefit the community, then why are we allowing people to take that gold from us, right? So
Right.
that's the way I kind of look at it.
Yeah, and then in your background, I know you worked in the entertainment environment in the past. I mean, what can you speak on to anything you've noticed from the way things were handled back then, with how maybe like the white media or executives or what have you would treat talent and things like that?
I mean, basically, it's the same way. Now, I didn't go all the way up there. I didn't get all the way to that level, but I've
Hmm.
seen enough where it's essentially the same thing. It's
Hmm.
essentially the same thing.
Yeah.
You got to understand, in my opinion, anyway. You have to understand that if we don't control the talents and the gifts that we have, or have somebody to back us up, right? That person that has that money, because for the most part, you got again a million LeBron James in the community. They're poor, they're destitute, they don't necessarily know how to make a lot of money. They come from um, poor environments, and then here comes somebody with to say, I'm gonna give you a contract. I was just listening to somebody the other day. We were having a conversation, and they were literally talking about how somebody that they were associated with was flown in. This was years ago, flown in to make music for a certain artist, right? And in the contract, the guy said in the contract, if because he was aware, but in the contract, it literally stipulated that he would get only $10,000 for making all this phenomenal music for everybody. 10 grand now, right?
Hmm.
So now I bring that up because you got to think about it. A lot of us don't know what 10 grand looks like, so we jump at it. We jump
Right.
at it. We like, okay, 10 grand. Let me go ahead and run with that. And that's part of the thing. So a lot of the people that have money, they control the talent because they have the money. I've seen people do bad deals and have contracts and stuff like that, right? Where they get swindled, right, out of the contract. There's been some very notable stars, black, that came from our community that died broke. How do you
Oh,
die
for
broke?
sure.
How do you
Definitely.
die broke? It's in the contract. It's in the contract. So it's like they take that talent, siphon off every bit of it until they squeeze it dry.
Oh, for
And then
sure.
and then
And
at the end of
NBA
the day,
stars too. There
yeah,
was
and then at the
one.
end of the day, you're left
Mhm.
destitute. So it's like that's one of the things that I think we just need to start to be more aware of, and then have brilliant lawyers, black lawyers that know the entertainment business that will be able to stop a lot of us from going down these paths. But again, that's gonna take a little bit of work.
For sure, definitely. And since we're talking about entertainment, business and such, let's talk about the controversy concerning the new Little Mermaid film. Disney's latest live action remake, The Little Mermaid, has found itself in all of this controversy since the casting of singer Holly Bailey. And so, who is African American, and the backlash is definitely is coming from a racist place. And so there's all this posting on Twitter and people making posts and really just expressing disdain, so much that when they put the trailer out on YouTube, they got 1.5 million dislikes. And so they had to take, what do they take it down? But I think that there's a way to still see it, which is just really horrible. Forbes magazine noted that information about the 1.5 million dislikes from angry fans that were just upset about there being a casting of a black actress to play the Little Mermaid. Um, what do you think about how, or why do you think they're so angry?
I mean, on this one, we have to be very direct. It's not angry fans; it's angry white fans. To be
Yeah.
totally honest,
Uh-huh.
there might be a sprinkle of quote unquote people of color in that mix, but
Okay.
for the most part, you're talking about the majority of those white fans that are upset by seeing somebody that doesn't look like them cast in a real huge light, because this was a big story, right? The Little Mermaid. some other stories and stuff like that. Pinocchio. I mean, you got to think about it. Um, and I think it's the highest level of hypocrisy when you sit back and think about it, because for the most part, this country has indoctrinated darker people of this country with stories of the greatness of white people, right?
Yes.
We've been just bombarded with the greatness of white people, whether or not if it was true or not. If it was a lie, we just been shoved, spoon fed these ideas of the greatness of whiteness, right? Regardless of what they did, they were just great because they were white, right? So now in comes Halle Berry, who, by the way, is one of the most gifted and talented singers, right,
Mm-hmm.
in this current generation. She's very skilled. When I listened at the trailer and I heard her vocals with the song, I'm like,
Yes,
yeah,
definitely.
yeah, she hit it, right? She really hit it. It was just the talent of it. And then being able to merge that with the aesthetics, it kind of did something to you. And I think what it here's in my opinion, here's one of the most crucial pieces of it. It was the fact that you had, I saw this on TikTok, social media. It was the fact that you had young black girls, very young black girls
Mm-hmm.
that saw the trailer and were literally blown away. She was like, they were like, she's black or she's beautiful. So now you're seeing somebody cast in a light that these young black children are saying, that's me. Now
Yes.
I get an image now of me being put in what would be considered, a pedestalized position, right?
Yes.
So I get to be that. I get to see myself in that, right? And that's what the fuss is about. It's not
Right.
necessarily about the black skin. It's about the influence or the impact of seeing her in that position, right?
Okay. Okay.
That's what it is. It's always, remember, to me, it's never necessarily about the money. So many of us chase the bag. That's fine. Chase your bag, get your money, blah
Mm-hmm.
blah 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 blah. But at the end of the day, if your influence is controlled by somebody else with the bag that you're chasing, you're really not making a huge impact. You're not making an impact in our community that should be made. You're making an impact in their community.
Mm-hmm.
Remember that, because it's always about influence. Remember, Nick Cannon got in trouble. Nick
Yes.
Nick Cannon got in trouble. It was about his influence. Uh, Stansfield, I forget his first name. Lamar Stansfield, I believe he was on Clubhouse. I was in that room when that happened, and he was just in the room. He didn't say anything. He didn't do anything. But there was a Jewish woman that came in and scolded him, and he didn't say a word. She was saying it was just the fact that he had an enormous amount of followers on his platform, and that he
Okay.
was using his platform and his influence improperly. Now, how do you tell a
Mm-hmm.
grown man that?
Mm-hmm.
Now he's supposed to be free. He's in the industry, right? He's supposed to be free, and he should be able to use his influence in whatever way he chooses to. But,
Right.
but the mere fact that he was just in the room and didn't say a word, one word, he was scolded by this Jewish woman because of the fact that he had a significant number of followers. It's the influence. It's the
Okay.
impact of the influence. And
Mm-hmm.
for young black women, that, oh man, I'd love to get in that in one point, because to me that's a serious one in and of itself. But when you influence young black girls, right, that in and of itself is very dangerous. It's very powerful, right? It's a very powerful thing when you can influence young black women. So by seeing Halle Berry cast in that lofty position as the Little Mermaid,
Yes.
yeah, it did something. It did something. It made a larger impact. It wasn't just about the skin color. It was about the
Right.
fact that she made an influence into these young black girls, and these young black girls are now seeing the imagery of themselves in that lofty position as the Little Mermaid.
Right. And this is a fictional character. I mean, this is
That's the
like
part.
she's a mermaid for goodness
That's the
sake.
part. That's what I'm
Yeah.
saying. That's the part. It's a fictional character, right? It's not like
Mhm.
it's real, but the fact
Right.
that the impact was there, the influence was there, right?
Mhm.
That's what the issue is to me. It's really about the influence.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think definitely in this climate, it's time for, representation that is different, and some of the diversity is needed. I mean, we have you know the Disney princesses of color, very few in the first place. So to have, maybe it's time, someone said maybe it's time that we, breathe some life into the existing Disney characters. And I don't think anything's wrong with that.
And the fact is, you got to also add this in. Um, I remember, I think it was Marvel Studio, something like that, was tanking. I think it was tanking, and that's when the Blade series came out.
Hmm.
And Wesley Snipes playing Blade at that time literally saved Marvel Studio because everybody was talking about this Blade series and how well Wesley Snipes did in the Blade series and stuff like that. Literally saved it. Um, the Black Panther came out, was a huge success. Everybody went to go see Black Panther, right? It was a big thing, and I mean, all black people came out in their regalia and everything, and it was just an overwhelming event. So now here comes Halle Berry playing the Little Mermaid, the impact, the influence. So
Oh,
there's
for
also
sure.
so you got to think about it also that there's going to be a monetary gain behind this. Yes, it's going to be shaking the waves because yeah, you got your first little a little mermaid that's actually a little black girl, right? But there's also going to be a monetary side. There's going to be a monetary gain to that because now you got to think about how many people are going to go watch this film just for the fact that you have a black woman cast as the leading role in that film, and not only that, the immaculate talent that she has to be able to sing these songs that have been written for that particular script. So you really got to dig into the nuts and bolts of it and just think
Hmm.
about it as is. I know a lot of people going to look and view it for entertainment, but there's other people's like the ones that are raising hell about it. They
Hmm.
see, they see, right, that potentially there's something else to it, and they do not want a lot of black people to get out of their place.
Right.
Your influence should be serving whiteness, not
Mm,
black.
okay.
So
You really feel that way. You really
yeah,
feel that way.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, for the most part, this should be serving. I mean, our influence, man. I wish this was a longer podcast. Maybe we can stretch it out a little bit, but yeah, your influence should be serving that.
Hmm.
And what I mean by that, when you look at it in terms of white supremacy and racism,
Yeah,
your
for sure.
influence should be serving that structure, that institution, right? That's what it should be serving. It should not be serving, it should not be self-serving in terms of you helping your own. That's what it should not be. So
Okay.
again, you're talking about a fictional character. It's not real. It's not real at all. But everybody is up in an uproar, right? And again, to me, it's not just about the skin tone. It's about the influence and the impact of that particular character.
Yeah, I can get that. I can get that. I just feel like they don't want to break the tradition, and that's part of it. But obviously, prejudice and racism is, undeniably a factor here. And like you said, and the potential for this to be very huge. The merchandising. I mean, this is going to be huge. She's going to be on backpacks and lunch boxes, and they're going to,
That part,
yeah.
that's exactly now you're talking. Yeah,
Hmm.
like I say, the monetary side of it is the gain of it is just it's going to be huge,
Yeah, I don't know if they're
and
ready for that.
yeah,
So,
and to not, and you're talking about changing, the what did you say earlier about
well, like breaking the traditional view of this character, that she had pale skin and red hair,
a
and,
fictional character,
right,
a
the
fictional
fictional,
character?
fictional
Yeah,
character,
yeah. So
you
essentially,
know.
I can make a Little Mermaid today and give it
Mhm.
whatever hue and color that I want to. I'm sure little children, if you give them coloring books, they in their imagination they can make Little Mermaid whatever color
Oh, for
what that
sure.
they want, right?
Right.
So again, it's the adults that are set in their way um, about white supremacy and racism that does not want that to move. They don't want the needle to be moved. But again, if you're talking about diversity, which to me, um, doesn't mean a hill of beans, to be totally honest. But if you are talking about diversity, then yes, let's talk about diversity. There should be representation all across the board. You know, when you sit back and you think about it, with these different shows and whatnot. But I just see it as a little bit deeper. But for those that want that type of diversity, then yeah, I think it's high time that literally happens. I was waiting for the Black Bond to come out. To be totally honest, when they said
Yeah.
Idris Elba was going to play him, I'm like, that's the chief right there. Man, if he played that, that's going to be crazy, right? But I don't think they'll ever cast up like a Black Bond. I don't think they'll
And
do
I
that.
don't
Yeah.
see why not, because the women, the love interests, have been some black ladies in there. But and that's the difference. It's okay for a white man to lay down with a
Let me
black
go get my
lady.
hammer because you just hit the nail on the head. Bingo. And it's
See?
always been like that. That same thing with Star Trek when you had the original Captain
Hmm.
Kirk and everything. He had love interests from all different galaxies, right? And
Yes.
that's the thing. That's the thing. So to not break that idea, to not break that power, right, is a huge thing. And it's crazy because you've had these people that have um basically reaped tons of benefit from the fact that you've crafted narratives and stories, whether fictional or not, centered around whiteness, right?
Yes.
Even the Bible was crafted around whiteness, right? When the
Hmm.
original story and the original text is actually about black folks. It's really about black folks. But they translated it and translated and retranslated it to be centered around whiteness. So everybody, and then to solidify it, they started to put out portraits of what they believe
Yes.
Jesus to look like. So it's very hypocritical when you sit back and you hear about people that are crying about something as small. Now again, this is not even on the grand scale. Something as small as the Little Mermaid now being a young black lady. It's crazy for people to do that.
It is. It is. And I mean, we really could go down the rabbit hole of the characters if we wanted to. We talked about a few, how some of the newer shows like the House of Dragons have put black people into the time period pieces, which I think is really interesting. And shows like Bridgerton on Netflix, where you have, have you checked that one
Oh man, man, I'm gonna leave it alone because I might get beat up by the crew. But
out?
no, it's no, no.
Well, I
Mm,
looked at season one. I didn't look at season two. So, but
yeah,
I think it's interesting and neat that she has, black and white characters just corresponding together like that. It's from a black woman writer, Shonda Rhimes, the Bridgerton series. So I think
hmm,
that's really interesting and a
yeah,
unique way to do that. And without them being lesser than and things like that, she just has all different kind of characters all in there together. I love it.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
neat.
yeah.
Why not? So yeah, I mean, because we know how history played out. So why, this is fiction. This is a story. She's giving us a story for sure. Because the black lady was the queen
Yeah.
on Bridgerton. And how, who would have thought that with all these, in this time period piece. So it's really interesting. And
No,
as you,
I get it. I get it. I get it. I think that a lot of these writers are now understanding the value of putting these characters into these shows now. I think they're
yeah,
understanding it again, especially from a monetary side. They're understanding the value of doing so. My only thing is that a lot of us as black people still don't understand the concept that um, life imitates art, right?
hmm,
Life imitates art, and for the most part, we consume these images so much that we begin to kind of take on have this relationship with these characters, and all of a sudden you see us to start to live out these different characters in real life, and that's part of the
hmm,
problem, in my opinion, because a lot of us are not solid um, in who we are. We don't necessarily know who we are. We don't have a concrete foundation in terms of our history and things like that. So
yeah,
we begin to mimic these different characters that we see on these shows.
Mm,
And that's my thing. So again, I look at it not just as entertainment.
okay.
It's to me, it's difficult to sit back and watch anything just for entertainment. It's very difficult, right? Um, everything that I watch, pretty much, I'll see the entertainment in it, but I'll also see the messaging. I'll also
Mm-hmm.
see what how they're trying to influence me, uh,
Mm, that's
what
true.
level that they're trying to reel me in on, right? Because I have to be aware of these things, because if not, then I'm going to be pulled in and siphoned in just like everybody else. See, I'll be around here walking around like a robot, just like everybody else, thinking, oh, this is the thing to do. Uh,
Yeah, right.
but you got to be careful, because and it's not like I'm lying, because you can now see thousands upon thousands of, Nicki Minaj's, or people trying to mimic themselves as a Kim Kardashian, or somebody's
Mm-hmm.
walking around trying to imitate a Pop Smoke, or something
Mm-hmm.
like that, right?
Yeah,
And I get it. These are, we can consider these at one point our heroes. I get it. But at the same time, who are you is the question. Why
right.
are you trying to mimic somebody else? Why are you trying to imitate somebody else? It's because you haven't fully found yourself yet.
Right.
That's the biggest thing. You haven't found yourself yet. You don't need all of that to portray an image of what you think yourself should be. You haven't found you yet. Once you found you, then you'll end up being what they call your authentic self.
For sure.
That's
And even
that's
like
the
these
biggest thing.
people who are embodying this blackfishing, be yourself. You know what I mean? If you're talented, if you have something to offer the masses, just come with who you are.
Well, a lot of
And
them not gonna do that, because they know again, the easiest way to come up, like it's a tried and tested um plan. It's a tried and tested maneuver, right? It's tried and tested. It's time and time and time and again. We always get duped for some reason when we see somebody that supposedly look like us, act like us. We get duped 100% of the time, because we don't know how to ask those very important questions. Where did you come from? What's your background? X, Y, and Z, right? Just gather enough information before we allow you into these spaces, and we don't know how to do that, or we know how to do it and we're afraid to do it because we don't want to be labeled as, oh, you're a gatekeeper, or you're a black racist, and yada yada yada. But it's
mhm.
evident that what goes on in our community is very problematic, and part of the problem is, yes, us, but at the same time, allowing everybody else in before we even know who the hell we are.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely. And then representation matters with images like, Holly Bailey, who will be playing the new Little Mermaid, which, we're looking forward to seeing that. And, she's so up and coming actress, so this is a really great move for her. So kudos for that.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think I think I'm I think I'm going to watch it, because, like I say, I love her voice. I remember
Mm.
when her and her sister was coming up,
Oh,
the
for sure.
representation and how they came about was huge. And so I guess now this is like a crossover piece. And but yeah, just for her talent and her gift, yeah. So I think I'll watch it just to check it out.
Yeah, you mentioned the reaction videos to the trailer with the children. I even saw some white children in there, and they were all excited and thrilled. And, it was really kind of like sweet to see that, and hopefully that um, campaign will motivate, these, ill gotten,
Yeah,
responses.
and it's terrible, man. It's really terrible when you sit back and think about it, because this is nothing. This is nothing new. This has been happening for years. When you had Little Richard, they had to come up with a counter to Little Richard. When you had somebody that was doing what Elvis Presley was doing before Elvis Presley got on the scene, they had to have a counter to that, right? There's always a counter to that, because when you sit back and you think about it, you know, um, there's millions of them that love the spirit. They love the vocal stylings, right? They love the artistry from us. And then that causes an inclination for a lot of people to lean towards. Look at what Michael Jackson did.
Hmm.
Michael Jackson by himself had the whole world pretty much at his feet. People falling out at his feet. They tried to find the equivalent of a Michael Jackson elsewhere, but you couldn't do it. There was only one Michael Jackson. right? It was only one Michael Jackson. You couldn't find the equivalent, right? Same thing in the boxing arena. They tried to find a Mike Tyson or somebody to that degree. You couldn't
Mm,
find it. That then it's not
mhm.
there. You couldn't find it. So there's always it's really the influence. And that's what I'm saying. We got to be careful of the influence that we carry because it's really that influence
Mhm.
that that can bring so many people over. It's the power of the influence.
Right.
That's more weighty than anything else. You can have all the money in the world, but again, it's the influence. It's the influence. So I got to
Yeah.
control your influence. I got to control your influence. I have to control your narrative. I got to control your impact, right? Because if I don't do that, then I'm not going to be in control. And the whole objective is to be in control.
Right.
That's the whole objective.
Okay. Definitely. Let's see. So I guess we'll end that thought there. Why don't you tell us about your podcast, Gerald?
Yes, yes, yes. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Mhm.
It is called the All Things Black Podcast. Basically, I talk about a myriad of subjects, anything from relationships to um, finances, any kind of institution, anything that somebody can lend to the space that will be able to, help. Is what I talk about. So I bring people on and we have those kind of discussions and stuff like that. So I don't necessarily dig into any of the foolishness. I get it. There's a lot of people that want to hear that kind of stuff, but I just think it's stuff that's way more important
Mhm.
than hanging on to the frivolity that people love to get into. A good laugh is a good laugh. I get it, but there's so many other things that's going on in the world right now that people are not paying attention to. So again, we try to bring as much light as possible um, on that particular platform.
For sure. And then you also have done some audio production classes. Any courses coming up?
There's always courses coming up. The problem is, can I complete them? That's
Okay.
the issue. But yeah. So one of the ones that I kind of mentioned to you earlier before we got started. Right now, I'm using a platform that a lot of people don't know anything about, which is why you see my overlays look the way that they do. Very clean, very very,
Yeah.
very professional. I've already started, but I'm going to be teaching courses on that and how to use that particular piece of software to make your videos look really really nice and stuff like that. And it's really it's budget, so you're not going to have to come out of your pocket, with tons of money to be
Okay.
able to do something like this. It's very very economical. And again, you don't have to go and buy fancy equipment, anything like
Uh-huh.
that. It's very very simple to use. So yeah, so that's one of the classes I'm going to end up teaching.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, I like that. So definitely share those details when you have them. Let's see. And then we will have your links posted. And yeah, you mentioned that you will look for that other link so that we can share that on the panel that you had. That was really impactful for the Black men. Definitely. Anything else to share, Daryl?
Other than the fact that I so much thank you guys for even inviting me, into some of these spaces.
Yeah.
I just like having these different kind of conversations and different perspectives. I'm not one to I'm not one to walk around and always talking about I want to be right. I want to be right. No, I rather you think. I
Mhm.
rather you think. If I said something that's meaningful, think about what I said. Right. It's not about me necessarily being right. I'm not ego driven. I don't care nothing about that, not that kind of stuff. I just want you to kind of think about what I'm saying. If you agree with it, fine. If you don't agree with it, that's fine. Also, but yeah, we have discussions to actually kind of find what the truth is, and that's the biggest thing. So if you got truth out of what was conveyed on this particular podcast today, um, thank God, and then you spread that along to anybody else, and then we'll go from there. But yeah, thank you as always for allowing me on your platform. For anybody that's listening, y'all need to stay plugged into Woke by Excellent Podcast. She's got some great interviews on there, man. I'm telling you, and she does a phenomenal job at being a host and a producer and everything else. So y'all stay tuned in and plugged into her.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that for sure. And yeah, definitely, you're welcome here anytime. I definitely found that I'll find the value in what you could give. I attended your course before, so once you have that together, let us know so we can spread the word on that. And yeah, I appreciate it for sure. Definitely. Good to have you on, Darrell. All right, guys. Well, thank you guys for listening, and you take care.